It's like the Thriller laugh from Michael Jackson. Now I'm going to start dancing and werewolves are going to come out. It's a little application that demonstrates AJAX. So you could enter a word, submit it, and I'm storing it in a data storage up in the sky. And then as I enter words, oop, that word's been taken. But doggy is available, so I can enter doggy. But now as I enter dog, still taken. And now doggy is also taken. That's pretty cool. And so this is what you'll learn in CIT 90, how to do stuff like this. But as I enter, you can watch down here, right? I enter a D, so it sends to the server some JSON, JavaScript object notation, right? Some JavaScript there, and then the server checks, hey, has D been taken? And false, right? So taken's false, comes back false. And I enter O, right? So it's DO, so it sends the server DO, and the server checks false, right? It sends back false, hasn't been taken. G, and it's like, okay, send to the server dog, true, that's been taken, true. Sweet. And so based upon whether it's taken or not taken, I then have some JavaScript which updates the page with already taken.
I'm sorry. What is this? What are we talking about?
Oh, this is next semester. Oh, okay. If you take CIT 90 with me, you'll be doing this stuff by Christmas. November, Thanksgiving, Christmas. It's totally cool. Right? So you could enter stuff in a form, and then that's getting stored in a data storage of some sort. It's called the data store. It's a NoSQL data store right here. So you can see I've entered dog and doggy. Nice. Yeah, I thought I'd just show that. And then I like the design of this too. So I'm using a viewport width so the words scale. Right, as I change the size, everything just grows and shrinks. No media queries. But the can I use on that viewport width is 78%, so it's not super yet. I look for about 95%, and then just write the other 5% off as not having money probably anyhow, so why would you want to build a service to sell something to them? Or, you can't ship to the middle of Africa right now, so that 5% doesn't really get to enjoy whatever we build. So those are viewport units. When we talked about different units of measurement, that was one of the things we talked about. All right. Does that interest anybody? Yeah? No? I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool. So I did a whole bunch of more stuff with the SVGs. So I thought I'd just show you that. And we looked at ARIA and inlining SVG and adding CSS to SVG, I think. But you could also do 2 fill colors to SVG, and this is what that looks like. Right? So here's one, and then that's like, different SVGs. And the way that's accomplished is we have a symbol, and that symbol is given the ID of check. And so it has 2 paths in there. So the paths are broken up. So this is the circle, and this is the check mark. And so with the check mark, we just right here in line, we say, hey, the fill on that is going to be the current color. So the check mark gets filled up with the current color. Right? There's fill and stroke when it comes to SVG. And then for the other one, it doesn't have any attributes on it, right, on that tag. So we look to the CSS, and we can see that everything gets applied. They both have, when we put them in, right, here's check, 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 same SVG, ID check, same SVG is being used in all 3 places. This one just has icon applied to it. And so the icon style is width and height is 1M. So an M means look to my parent, don't look to the root. That would be a rim. M is look to my parent. Whatever my parent's font size, give me one of those. And if my parent's font size is 16, then my font size is 16. My parent being whatever, when I go up, who's my parent container, what's its font, the font size. If I'd set 2 M's and my parent was 16, then I'm 2 times 16, 32. So that first one is have an icon applied to it. And so it says vertical line, whatever, just a little shifting vertically. But then it says, hey, the fill of that first one is current color. Well, what is the parent of, this is the one we're talking about here, it only has class icon. What is the parent of that SVG? The parent is body, right? And so if we're saying fill current color, what's body's color? Body's color is red. So it gets, whatever its parent's color is red and makes it that its fill color. And that was that first one. The second one gets icon and icon color. So the second one gets everything the first one got. If we didn't have icon color styled, it'd just be red like the first one, because the first one had icon. This one now has icon color. And these are just names I made up. There's class names, right? There's nothing like, there's nothing special about the names. They aren't like keywords or anything. And so on icon color, when that class gets applied, the fill becomes dark khaki, and then the color becomes fire brick. So what's happening there? So dark khaki is this, and then that's fire brick, right? So this class, icon color, just set the CSS color on this element. Before, the color wasn't set on that, and it was just saying, let me get my fill from my container for my fill. Now this container also has color, so everything gets set to fire brick. Right? That color is now fire brick. However, we're going to set the fill to dark khaki. So the circle inherits the value of fill. Are you okay?
No, this chair just
Oh,
crazy chair.
yeah, that's a little bit of a scary chair. It's like a trick. So the circle inherits the value of fill. Right? We're saying, hey, everything that's this one here, everything here, fill it with dark khaki. So we kind of said fill it with red, and then we said fill it with dark khaki. I wonder if this order matters. Just curious about that. No. Because we're kind of saying, by giving it this one, we're saying fill is red, right? Current color. And then we're also saying fill is dark khaki. I was just wondering why fill is dark khaki takes precedence. You see how we're applying fill twice there? So that's just kind of interesting. Why did that take precedence? Maybe it's a little bit more specific. Like if we'd said here red, what's it do? Nothing. Because we did icon fills red, and we did icon color fill is dark khaki, and then this one should just, no fill specified, so it should just take on whatever the fill is. And if we didn't have this one, it goes to red, but when we add that one in, it goes to dark khaki. And just checking to see if order matters. The order in which you apply the CSS. No, it doesn't matter. So some of that stuff's a little bit mysterious. Current color. Anyhow, this doesn't have fill specified on it. So it inherits the value of the whatever you fill, you apply to this whole element, it gets it. But this one does have fill, so that's more specific, I guess. And it takes the current color, which is fire brick. And so that's the check, which is what that says. So we get that. And we could just switch those colors. Medium turquoise. Rebecca purple. Kind of cool. And it's a little bit to wrap your head around. But you've got the code, and that's the way you learn the code, is to start with the code like, oh, I know this is possible. Where was the code that showed me how to do that? Let me go get that code, figure out how that code worked, and then build my own deal to kind of work the same way. Spend time with it. Having people find this interesting? I think SVG is totally important. Thus, I've been spending time on it. So this one's just pointing out the importance of when you add stroke, you need to have room around your element when you create your element, so the artboard can't be right up tight to your SVG when you save it. You need to have 20 pixels on each side or something. So if you add stroke, the stroke doesn't get truncated, doesn't get cut off. Right? So this one here, play no space. Play no space. I'm going to put these in different order, so the one we see first is the first order. Patrick? Patrick already graduated from college. He went to UC Berkeley. They didn't quite give him what he needed, so he's come back to the real source right now, Fresno City College. That's no small accomplishment. I'm proud of you, Patrick. That's like something to be proud of.
Thanks.
So that's leaving room for strokes. And using percentages for stroke width. So here are a couple of hearts. This one has a view box of 2020. 2020. This one has a view box of 500. So for some reason, when you say that the stroke width is 1 pixel, and I'm applying that here, stroke test. So stroke test is being, well, that's stroke test 2, is being applied to those two. So as I apply stroke test to each of those, they each get stroke width of 1. But 1 pixel in a view box that's 2020 is a lot bigger than 1 pixel in a view box that's 500, 500. 1 pixel here is 1/20th of the view box. 1 pixel there is 1/500th of the view box. View box is still a bit of a trippy concept, but what's the box through which you're viewing your dimensions? Go back and look at that. Still not solid for me. And then if we use percentages down here, these each have 5%. Viewbox 2020, viewbox 500, 500. 5% is still 5%. If it doesn't click, that's all right. But I'm just sort of illustrating what was pointed out in this article. A great article. And there are all the icons from the article. And then I just put together the main points here so we can look at it. He also encourages in your head to include this declaration. Because if you don't include that declaration in your head, and that's the same declaration where for an icon, you know, the person who wrote that was recommending that we have this. Where 1M, 1M, the width and height becomes 1M of its parent. If you don't have that, and your CSS doesn't load, you could get really large icons because your CSS never loaded. Like if somebody's on a train, and for whatever reason, this guy was using the illustration. What happens if your main style sheet fails to load because the user is on a flaky connection, maybe on a train? He says it happens to him all the time. The page might still render without styles. And if you have a decent HTML structure, the page will still be readable, but your icons will be really big. So to avoid that, you know, to make this not to prevent your icons from being really big. If your style sheet doesn't load, use this code. Use this code in the head of your HTML document. Excuse me. Let's see if it prints that code out. No, it rendered it. I need to do this. So this is entities. I'm trying to just have a greater than sign display, but the browser renders that as, oh, here's a tag, right? So I need to do, that's a less than, and less than, semicolon. That's an HTML entity, and greater than, semicolon, and greater than, semicolon, and less than, semicolon. I put LT twice, LL twice. So now I got that, right? So those are HTML entities. And you can just look at a list of them. You know, like, hey, if you don't want that to render, then use and less than. You know, or and amp, or and copy. Or you could use these and pound 169. And your browser knows to show that symbol as opposed to interpreting it as part of the code. Escaping characters. HTML entities. You guys ready for a challenge? So we left off with the challenge, and many of you had to like cruise out because we ran out of time. We left off with the challenge of above the fold SVG. I think I got one of them working. Woo! Woo. Oh, I just lost it. Okay, and I set that into my background. Just like that. How many people got that working last Thursday? You got it?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. So why don't you, it just gives us a little bit working with an SVG. Why don't you get an above the fold, full page SVG going. We'll take 10 minutes to do that, 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes to do that. We'll stop at the 35. And you could copy an SVG straight from my code on GitHub. That's dangerous. Just go to HTML, CSS, and you could go to SVG, and you could go to the README, and then the icons SVG, and raw, and then you could see in here that there's a whole bunch of different SVGs. So you could grab one there. Those might actually be a little bit harder to use because you have to do a little adjusting on those. You could just go straight to my solution above the fold SVG and grab that tree. The first one, O2 solution. Grab the tree. So that one, grab that one. above the fold SVG solution, grab the tree. Get that to show up on a full page above the fold display. And if you want to get really tricky, make the tree green.